some of you will notice in the program that YY Yang, the chairman and CEO of Lenovo, was scheduled to be here. He actually made it all the way from Beijing as far as Europe and then found out that his father was ill, and so he had to turn right around and go back. So, but by an amazing stroke of luck, we have somebody from Lenovo who actually has one of these heartwarming stories about the globalism of technology these days. He's a Frenchman who moved to Silicon Valley decades ago, is now working for a Chinese company, but is chairman and CEO of Motorola, a well-known American company, to go along with Lenovo's other well-known American company, ThinkPad. So we have this kind of swirling mass of globalism about this. So I would like to give you Aymar DE LENCQUESAING.
Very good, very good.
And have a good time. Thank you. And Virginie Robert from Les Echos, our partners here today. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, hello everyone. I'm Virginie Robert. I'm head of the foreign desk at Les Echos, but for many years I covered IT and innovation, so I don't feel too far away from what I know. And I'm here with Aymar DE LENCQUESAING. He knows the Valley very well. He lived for 22 years in Northern and Southern California. He's been in startups, he's been in big companies, he's been in the service industry with Capgemini in France, and now he's at the executive committee of Lenovo. So you're part of those newcomers. I mean, Lenovo really has become global 10 years ago, and you take markets by storm. You did it in the PC industry when you bought IBM PCs. You did it again buying the Motorola brand in the mobile industry. So how can you explain us the management of that company that really raids on the markets?
Yeah, sure. First of all, I just would like to extend YY Yangqing's apologies for not being here. It was mentioned that he had a family emergency, but more selfishly, it gave me an opportunity to visit my hometown, and I'm always happy to come to my hometown, in particular in June, so thank you.
I have a great son to welcome you, as you noticed. Yeah.
Look, it's interesting. I've worked for a lot of different entities, as you mentioned, over my career, and I find Lenovo to be somewhat remarkable in as much as it's not so much a Chinese company. I don't think of it as a Chinese company. It's a very global company. We are a management team with 7 nationalities for about 10 people. We're distributed geographically in different cities. There's no such thing as a headquarter. There's a very, very decentralized management style, which encourages people to take risks, to innovate, and rewards, of course, performance, and yet tolerates the occasional failure.
Yet it's a 45 billion company already, so
yes.
How do you make it nimble?
Well, there are 2 aspects to it. Some of it is just in the mindset and the culture. So you have to walk the walk and talk the talk, and so the decentralization and the empowerment goes down, it trickles down, and we need to be ready to live by it. And this is sort of a daily occurrence. It's very much of a meritocracy. You set your own goals.
But it's very much unlike IBM. I mean, you bought, IBM PCs. They were anything but nimble. They were two processes, and how did that change?
Well, first of all, we did change the culture of the IBM entities that we purchased. We encouraged that sense of entrepreneurship. And you're right, big companies, 50 billion, you do need to have some processes, management layers, so you can't avoid it. So some of that is cultural, it's mindset, and then you need to build mechanism that encourage innovation. So we do a lot of R&D, and we take out of R&D through a venture capital arm that we have created, the best ideas, and we spin them off. Because sometimes it's easier to succeed if you're out of the structure as opposed to being in the structure.
But that's very unlike the idea we have of Chinese company. We keep, I mean, it's very prejudiced, but we keep thinking they steal our technology and they resell it and do it usually with less quality. Lenovo has a totally different culture on that, right? How much you spend on R&D?
It's a company of engineers. We love technology. So we have literally thousands, I think we're close to 10,000 engineers on staff now, designing products ranging from storage and server products all the way to smartphones. And it's deeply ingrained. And in this industry, you can't go to market without technology by relying on the so-called ODMs.
Right.
But then you lose the edge to innovate. And I think there are plenty of examples that show that the day that you lose the innovation edge, well, you lose share.
So you have the technology. At the same time, you're going after markets that are slowing down. The PC market is going down, and the high point, the high peak we had in the mobile industry might be slowing too. So how do you go about that?
But I'll be flippant, and say, we don't care.
Okay.
So the way we look at it is in relative performance to the market. So the market is a market. We can't control if the market goes up, goes down, or stays flat. But what we can control is our premium to market. Do we grow faster than the market, or do we decrease slower than the market when the market decreases, i.e., do we gain share? And as long as we gain share, we're fine. So we keep getting share in the PC. You're right, the PC market is not growing anymore, but we keep gaining share. And we certainly have lots of room to grow in the phone segment.
It's true, but in the phone segment, I mean, it's very controlled by a few. Well, it's not very controlled. Actually, it's spread out today. But you have Apple on one side, then you have the Android players. Microsoft has totally disappeared. And you have been very strong in China, but now newcomers are taking market share from you. So what is your response?
Well, look, as long as I've worked in this industry, and it's over 30 years now, it is a competitive industry. And competition is healthy, competition is good. So we have to find our path, but it's not a sprint. It's a long race. If you think about, even as an example, just the PC business, we entered really the PC business in earnest in 2005. Now, PC was invented in 1981.
I know, it's true, it's fast.
So it's 25 years later, there have been a lot of companies, some have stayed, some have gone. And now, and only now, 30 some odd years later, there's consolidation in the industry. And the same will happen in the phone industry. It's still very early stage.
But do you want a federator? Do you want to consolidate?
Do I want what?
Would you like to be one of the actors who federate, or I don't know how to say it, consolidates yeah, the industry?
You bet.
With buyouts, for instance?
Well,
or
right now, I think we've just bought out Motorola.
Right.
So we got to digest it and leverage the asset we purchased.
But it's almost 2 years now, right?
It's not 18 months.
Yeah. Still a lot to do?
Still a lot to do. I mean, acquisitions are never simple, and an acquisition of that magnitude is not. I think we're getting close to the stage now where we'll have digested the integration, and then who knows what the future will hold in terms of M&A. But realistically, we have more than enough room to grow on the basis of the assets we've got.
I was visiting your stand earlier, and I saw those Moto mods. So you just add feature. I mean, you're going to explain it much better than I can. But it seemed to me that you tried to distinguish yourself on the market with really funny products, interesting products. I read somewhere good, weird products, things that are unusual and high-end. Is this a way to do your marketing, or do you think you can create new usage?
No, I mean, look, we cannot be delusional, right? We have to accept where we are today in the market, and we're good at certain things. We're good at delivering value to customers, and we know that we have the know-how to do very good engineering product at the premium, in the premium segment. But we believe that they're well-established brands in the premium, and to fight against them, we need to be differentiated. And differentiations come from innovation, and consumers ultimately make the difference between devices that are innovative and those that are not. And again, there's a lot of time, there's a lot of room. I'm not stressed.
Can you tell us about those mods thing? Because I was surprised. It's like you just put something on the back of the phone and it has different use, just like a Swiss knife a little bit,
Well, actually, I'll take the opposite argument, which is you would want in a phone to make the Swiss knife, Swiss Army knife of it, but then you pile up in the phone a set of components and technology and features and performance that drive the price up and compromise, the main aspect of the phone. So we decided to take different tack. So we made the phone super thin, super high-end, no compromise on design, no compromise on everything. But then in a snap, through magnets in the back, we can snap any module. So it could be a camera, it could be a speaker, it could be a battery, it could be a number of things. And we are encouraging developers, and in fact, we're encouraging entrepreneurs at this conference. We even have a prize that we have announced to stimulate the innovation in that space and encourage them to build modules that then the users can add to their phones and get the best of both worlds. So it's a game changer.
I find the idea interesting because I can see how it happens in software, and it seems to me it's more difficult to do the same in hardware.
Well, it's a combination of both, actually. You have the software that you need to recognize the mod that you plug in, because it only works if it's snap-on, snap-off. You don't want to have to, move your hardware or open an app or reboot or do any of those things. It has to recognize instantly, and that's done with the software layer. But then, through the housing of the hardware, you can package with it any software, apps, or services that you'd like.
Can you tell us a little bit of how you go about the geographical markets? Because you started in China, where we have very important market share, but now more people going after you. And it seems that you're better known in emerging countries today, just coming to Europe. I mean, it's very new. How's your sense of getting around this market here?
Yeah, well, you're right. The common wisdom for the last 30-some-odd years has been in tech that you start with the mature markets, typically the US market, then you move into Western Europe, and then you migrate over time in the more emerging countries. We took the different tack. So we started on the back of what we know how to do in China in going very aggressively after the emerging market, which is important because in the hardware business, you need to build scale. So we could get to scale fairly quickly on the back of the emerging markets, which now puts us in a very good position, we believe, to really double down and push in the mature market, both North American and Western Europe.
But do you have, are products very different by geographies? Like, do you have low cost volume for China, for instance, and maybe up around here, or not?
The way it works is you have a complete portfolio of products, and then the mix changes. So in some countries, you have a higher mix than in other markets. If you take Africa, most of them, 50% of the market now is sub $100. So, you have to have devices in 3G, they're not even about 4G, that can address this particular segment, or you decide to ignore it, which is, half of the market.
Yeah, I was wondering today, when you buy a phone, what does matter most? If I look at my daughter, it will be storage. She needs to store her pictures. It can be 4G. It can be. How do you go about that? What do you give the premium?
Well, you do customer segmentation. It has to be consumer driven by customer segmentation. Your daughter probably has preferences different from my son's. They all are different. So some people like to buy a phone on the quality of the picture. Others will privilege storage. So I think we need to have products that are clearly segmented by usage and by price point.
And is there anything coming? Like, I remember when I was covering IT, suddenly Intel started to talk to us about Wi-Fi, and nobody knew what it was, and it was very mysterious. And it just became that huge thing that, phones have to have today, and it takes the business model of the voice away. Do you see something like that coming in the mobile area too?
I hope the voice never goes away. That's my personal bias.
There's
to
data.
Look, that being said, you touched on something which is connectivity. And even though in many places in the world, this being one, we start to take Wi-Fi for granted, we still have actually progress to make in connectivity overall. And in a number of countries, including in Europe, connectivity is not always completely ubiquitous. And that has still yet to happen to stimulate the industry.
Do you believe in Wi-Fi platforms that would...
In what?
Wi-Fi platforms that would, talk to each other? Like, is this something that we should foresee coming or not?
As what technology are you referring to?
Well, I was just thinking about Wi-Fi networks.
Yes.
Is this something that they're going to build up? And because I really wonder where the business model of operators is going there.
Well, again, it's all about ubiquitous access. So for us, we don't really care so much, what is the platform that is of choice in any given market, as long as there is easy access. We need easy access because, look, we're a device company, and that's great, but that's only part of the story. Devices, regardless of form factor, are important to access the network, but beyond the network, it's accessing the cloud and the apps and services that you want on the cloud. And so we're very much now sort of shifting and looking into ways that we can enhance the customer experience between devices in the network, between the devices and the personal data, between the devices and the analytics that you can get from the data. And this is the world where it's not all homegrown. It's a world now where you have to make alliances and build partnerships and figure out what you're good at and do it, and what you're not good at, do it with someone else.
And the French industry is really much onto this.
Yes.
Connected devices. We have a lot of engineers we're working on this, and as you said, we're going to need many alliances. So the device is not really important. At the same time, I saw on your stand you were showing some watches. Does that mean you're going to have other stuff coming up that way? Or?
You bet.
You bet.
You bet.
Can you tell us a little bit, or do you have ideas?
There's a cool product that we have sort of demoed a couple of weeks ago. This is probably 4 years out, but we already have working prototypes. And this is based on flexible displays. So this is a smartphone that you can essentially wrap around your wrist. And it operates just like a regular smartphone. You unfold it, and it feels and looks like a regular phone, but you can carry it on your wrist. And this whole space of flexible displays will, I think, change some of the usages.
Does Lenovo have anything to do with the semiconductor industry at all, or?
Well, we're a big client of the
You're a big client, yeah, but you don't, because Motorola used, to be in semiconductors.
Yeah, no, we're not going down that path of doing silicon.
That path, yeah.
No.
So let me think what I wanted to ask you here. Yeah, one of the ways you said R&D was very important for you, and you set up an incubator or a group at least to invest in technologies. How much money did you put into it? What do you expect of it?
Yeah, we put $500 million. So we fund a number of projects, and they come from two sources. So it began actually because we had so many clever engineers that came up with nifty stuff that we sort of felt, oh, this is really cool, but it really doesn't fit our strategy. But it's too bad because the tech is really cool, so we should do something with it. And so we would spin it off. We're spinning those off now. There's a number of companies. Some of them have gone public already. Another one right now, which is ShareIt, has 500 million users already that have downloaded the app.
Pretty
so
good.
It's pretty good. And we basically keep an equity stake, but we raise money with some outside investors, and we spin them off as a startup.
Yeah.
So that's inside. But we also look at projects that are brought on by the outside. In fact, we have some companies that are coming here to this event that are going to pitch us some concepts around Tango. Tango is the joint development that we've done with Google about augmented reality on the phone, which we're the first to announce, and we launched that 2 weeks ago. And so we have a bunch of companies from all over the world that will come here and will pitch us, and we'll probably invest in one or two of them.
Well, I hope you're here listening and
I hope
in the room to know what to do with it. Tango, yeah, it's hard. I was asking you earlier, new usage, with the phone. What can you do? And Tango might be a good example to explain things that we haven't seen ever in phones up to now.
Yeah, it's for those of you who don't know, it's essentially a device that has 4 cameras and the ability to analyze the space and the distance in the space. And so it can overlay into, if I took a shot at this audience, it can overlay on it any augmented reality that I would want. So an easy to understand application of it is for interior designers or for hardware stores, where you can decide that you want to have a new kitchen or a new living room, and you can actually shoot your own living room and overlay in it the pieces of furniture that you would like to have and figure out how it looks and whether it fits or doesn't fit. So that's sort of an easy to understand application. Another one could be indoor navigation, which today you can't really do. You could do indoor navigation with that. You could do a lot of gaming applications with it for immersive experience.
What indoor navigation would do for me.
Well, maybe coming from the entrance of this building down to this meeting room.
Just to find the room, yeah, that would help.
That would help.
Definitely.
I don't know about you, but when I went and looked for the bathroom, it took me a while to find it.
And I'm not sure what I want to ask you next. You said, I was talking to one of your people earlier about an hackathon that was happening here. Can you tell us a little bit about it too?
Yeah, we have a number of students here from French schools that are doing a hackathon on our booth. And so it's essentially a brainstorming of ideas that they could use to leverage that Tango technology. So this is focused on Tango. And again, we have a reward system, and we'll pick the best ideas and do something hopefully with it. So it's call it a little bit of crowdsourcing.
Yeah,
it's challenging young people who are fast and quick and users of the technology in a way that perhaps, even though I'm grown up with it, perhaps I'm not anymore.
So you're now head of the global mobile segment of the company. How long do you think it's going to take you to make it profitable?
This is the journalist coming through from Lizico.
Yeah.
It will happen, that I'm extremely confident. And you know, it's always a decision on how fast you want to turn a business profitable. Because if you slow down on the investment, then the business can turn around to profit faster. And the mindset right now is more one of privileging growth.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we'll turn profitable, but I don't need to do that next quarter.
You bought a very famous brand, Motorola, but we knew very famous brands, especially in Europe, with Nokia. Sony too was pretty big in phones at one point. So what's going to make you make that brand known today and eventually have it stay?
That's a very good question. Look, nothing is ever guaranteed. Nothing is ever written. So number one, we need to fight. Number two, it's all about product and brand. So we need to have excellent products, and I'm confident that we can. That's sort of the non-negotiable condition. And it's a hell of a lot easier to succeed in the market starting from a brand that has a good brand name recognition, a good image, provided that we have a willingness to invest in it, and as long as we can also couple it with a Lenovo brand, which is associated as well with success and quality. So as I said, you know, you have to have the patience. This is not something that happens and you don't turn these things around in 3 months, but I'm very confident that over time we will. So I think we should have take a date.
Do you think we can learn from the mistakes of the past? I mean, when you look at what Nokia has been, when you look at what Microsoft tried to do on the market and did not succeed in doing, when you think of Ericsson, of Sony again, is there things that you know you should not do at all?
Yeah. There's no forgiveness, and there shouldn't be, quite frankly, for missing out on a technology cycle. And the temptation is sometimes great, in particular on the hardware side, to imagine that you don't need to innovate. Maybe you can follow and be smart and do it in a very cost-effective manner and build share. It can work short term. It cannot work, or very difficult to make it work for a long period of time, especially in an internet-enabled world where it's too easy to compare products. So the non-negotiating condition is really to keep investing and doubling down on innovation.
But I would imagine that would mean very rapid cycle in production too, because if you don't miss a wave, you have to be able to adapt fairly quickly to it.
So the sort of backside of this business is how rigorous you need to be about supply chain management, about inventory management, about just-in-time, you know, overall materials process, because this is what kills you. You're right. The product cycle is short, so you don't want to be left with unsold quantities. And you have to guess right. Right now, I'm doing products that will come to market in over a year. The decisions are being made now.
Right.
So this is all a science and an art of figuring out and hope that you're right on having the right portfolio. You can miss one, but you can't miss them all.
Twice, yeah. And I was hearing Tim Armstrong earlier saying that it was really important to look at what the millennials wanted, what they were after. Do you have focus groups? Do you really watch out what the kids are doing?
We do an awful lot of consumer-led research, an awful lot. Even in the design phase, when you start to think about the sort of product that we want in a year from now, we totally segment it. So it's segmented by behavior, by profile, and then there's a second segmentation layer, which is by price band. And then you merge the two and you try to come out with the best product for those particular constituencies.
So if you think you have the good product, now it's really a matter of knowing what resources to apply when to push them really to gain market share. And are distribution channels difficult in Europe now that you're coming to this market?
No.
Is it very different from what you found elsewhere?
Every country is slightly different. It's always, well, not always, but for the most part, a mix of operators and e-tail and retail partners. Some markets are more, you know, SIM-free, open market than others, but the mix is generally the same.
Oh yeah, no big surprises.
No big
here.
surprises.
But then the SIM market, I think, is becoming more and more important, right? As
The SIM-free.
customers, the SIM-free.
Yeah, SIM-free, yes.
As customers are becoming more at ease with their devices, they know better what they want, and they don't necessarily want to be holding on to an operator. It's where you can make maybe more easily a difference.
By and large, the emerging markets are SIM-free open markets, and the operators retain some weight in more Western markets, particularly North America and some of the European countries. So you adjust your marketing strategy to each specificities of the geography you serve.
So you've been working in many companies. I said earlier you lived in the States for a long time. When you see Chinese management, or I mean, I know you think it's a global company and not that Chinese after all, but still, I mean, you have the founder of the company is there. Can you describe what makes it different?
Well, what makes it different for me is this sort of mentality that we don't care so much where people live. We don't care so much about the way that they are structured. We ask them to basically build plans for themselves and their teams and then execute on them. And that I find a bit unusual to this degree in a company of the size of 50 billion. This sort of decentralization model is quite powerful when it works.
It's the power of autonomy. And I think our time has run up. So, well, thank you very much for explaining this to us. Thank you for taking his chair, because it wasn't that easy. Thank you.
Thank you.